Part 1, The Perfect Beginning, The First Cracks. If you had told me 2 years ago that I'd be sitting at my desk at 2 a.m., typing out the most insane relationship story of my life for strangers on the internet, I would have laughed and told you I'm not the kind of guy with drama. I'm boring. I work in IT. I like bad action movies, football on Sundays, and playing guitar badly in my living room. But then I met Emily. And boring? Yeah, that got tossed out the window. It started the way most good stories do, completely ordinary. A friend of mine, Jake, was having a game night. Nothing major, just a bunch of friends from work and a few random plus ones. I almost skipped it because I'd been troubleshooting some nightmare server issue all week and wanted to just not talk to people. But Jake texted, "Dude, trust me. Come over. I have someone I think you'll click with." He'd tried to play matchmaker before, so I wasn't exactly hyped. But I showed up anyway, armed with a six-pack and my lowest expectations. The second I walked in, I noticed her. Emily. Brown hair in loose waves, dark green sweater, holding a wine glass and laughing at something Jake said. She had that kind of laugh that wasn't just noise, it was warm, the kind that makes you want to be the reason for it. We ended up on the same team for code names. She was quick-witted, competitive, and had a way of raising one eyebrow when she thought your guess was ridiculous. By the end of the night, we were leaning toward each other without realizing it. Before I left, she slipped her phone into my hand and said, "You'd better text me. I'm not chasing you down." From that night, we were pretty much inseparable. We had our first date at this tiny ramen shop she loved, the kind of place you'd walk past 100 times without noticing. She insisted on ordering for me spicy tonkatsu with extra pork. She was right. It was perfect. Our weekends became a blur of coffee shops, Sunday farmers markets, and movie marathons. We discovered we both loved hiking, though her definition of easy trail involved a 3-hour climb that almost killed me. She made my apartment feel like home in ways I didn't even know I needed. A blanket thrown over the back of my couch. My fridge suddenly stocked with oat milk and weird cheeses. A little sticky note on my desk that just said, "You're doing great." I remember thinking, this is it. This is what people mean when they say they've found the one. But here's the thing about red flags. They don't show up like giant warning signs. They sneak in like whispers, little things you could shrug off, until you can't. The first one came about 3 months in. We were talking about our families. I told her all about my younger sister, how she once tried to sell me lemonade for $50 when we were kids. Emily laughed but didn't share much about her own. "We're not that close," she said quickly, changing the subject. I didn't think much of it. Not everyone is tight with their family. But as the months passed, I realized she never mentioned them. No visits, no phone calls, no photos in her apartment. When I asked if she wanted me to meet them, she'd brush it off. Someday. They're complicated. Then there was her phone. I'm not the check your partner's phone type. Honestly, I don't care who's texting as long as I trust you. But Emily's phone was always face down and always on silent. If it buzzed, she'd glance at it, then flip it back over without replying. Once I joked, "What, are you in the CIA or something?" She smiled, kissed me, and said, "I just hate notifications. I'm not glued to my phone like you." It wasn't an argument, but it stuck in my head. Red flag number 3 came on a Friday night about 6 months in. We had dinner plans. She'd even picked the restaurant. 30 minutes before I was supposed to pick her up, she texted. Work emergency. Rain check. Totally fine. Except later, I was scrolling Instagram and saw her friend's story. Emily at a bar, laughing with a group of people I didn't know. I told myself it was probably a work thing. Maybe she needed to network. I didn't ask because, in my mind, if I did, it would make me insecure. And I didn't want to be that guy. Then came the night that changed everything. We were at her place halfway through some true crime documentary she was obsessed with. She got up to take a shower. I stayed on the couch, absently scrolling through my phone. Her phone was on the coffee table, face down like always. Then it buzzed. For some reason, I glanced at it, just for a second. The name on the screen, Dan, work. The message, I miss you. Can't stop thinking about last night. It was like the air got sucked out of the room. My stomach dropped. My ears started ringing. And for a second, I wasn't even sure I'd read it right. I didn't touch her phone. I didn't scroll. I just froze. The sound of the shower in the other room felt deafening. When she came back, smiling, hair damp, wearing one of my old hoodies, I smiled back, pretended everything was fine. But it wasn't. Something had shifted, and I had no idea that Dan was just the tip of an iceberg I didn't even know I was standing on. Part 2: Suspicion and Discovery. Narrator's POV, 29M. The night I saw the message from Dan, work, I told myself I needed to be calm, rational. People text weird things sometimes. Maybe last night meant a group hangout. Maybe I miss you was a joke. I lay in bed next to Emily, staring at the ceiling while she slept, trying to convince myself that there was a perfectly normal explanation. But something inside me had cracked. And once that crack appears, everything starts to leak through. The next week was different. I started paying attention. Not in an obvious way, I wasn't following her around or anything, but I noticed patterns I'd never questioned before. Like how she'd get urgent work calls at 8 p.m. and step out into the hallway to answer. Or how her phone battery was always mysteriously low when I saw her, like she'd been using it constantly before coming over. Or how she avoided posting us on social media. When I joke about it, she'd say, I like to keep my private life private. And at first I agreed, but now it felt curated, controlled. The turning point came about 2 weeks later. We were out for brunch, sitting at a tiny corner table. She was telling me a story about her coworker spilling coffee on a client's laptop when her phone buzzed. She glanced at it, then quickly flipped it over. But this time, I caught the preview, unknown number. Can't wait to see you again. This weekend was amazing. She didn't say anything about it, just kept talking about coffee and laptops like nothing happened. Meanwhile, I couldn't taste my food anymore. My brain was a hurricane. That afternoon, when she went to the bathroom, I made a decision I'm not proud of. Picked up her phone. I didn't unlock it. She had Face ID and I wasn't about to wave it in front of her face while she was peeing. But I looked at the lock screen notifications. Half a dozen messages from different names I didn't recognize. All flirty, all recent. When she came back, I set her phone down like it was radioactive. That night, I barely slept. I kept thinking about all the excuses I'd swallowed over the past months. The sudden work trips, the networking events, the nights she was too tired to talk. I started scrolling back through her Instagram, looking for signs. And that's when I noticed something. In one of her friend's old posts from a birthday party, Emily's sitting next to a guy with his arm around her. The caption, "Throwback to the best weekend." The post date, just 2 weeks before we started dating. Normal? Maybe, but my gut said no. Over the next few days, I started testing her. If she said she had a late meeting, I'd call her mid-meeting just to say hi. Half the time, she wouldn't answer. If she claimed she was staying home sick, I'd check her friends' stories, and sometimes she'd pop up in the background at a bar or a restaurant. Every time she had a reason. "Oh, I went out last minute to feel better." "Oh, I was on another call." Couldn't answer. It was always plausible enough to make me doubt myself. Then one Saturday night, we were at her place, and she fell asleep on the couch watching TV. Her phone was right there, unlocked. I stared at it for a full minute before picking it up. The first thing I saw was her messages app. At the top, Dan, work. I opened it. There were weeks of flirty messages, inside jokes, late night, "I miss you" texts, pictures of wine glasses and sunsets. And it wasn't just work banter. It was intimate, personal, romantic. My heart was pounding, but I kept scrolling. Then I saw another contact, Mom. Except the messages didn't look like something you'd send your mom. "Can't wait to see you tonight. Still thinking about that thing you did last week." I clicked into the info. No mom's contact photo. Just a random number. I don't know how long I sat there, staring at the screen, but it felt like my chest was caving in. When Emily stirred, I put the phone back and pretended to be half asleep. She kissed my forehead and went to bed. I lay there thinking, what the hell am I even in right now? The next morning, I decided I was going to confront her. I rehearsed it in my head. I wasn't going to yell or accuse. I was just going to lay it all out. But before I could do that, something happened that blew the whole thing open. I got a DM on Instagram from a guy I didn't know. His profile picture was of him hiking, sunglasses on, maybe mid-30s. The message read, "Hey, this is random, but I think we might be dating the same girl." I stared at it for a long time. My hands were shaking. And then I replied, "What's her name?" Part 3, The Double Life. The DM sat there in my inbox like a ticking bomb. "I think we might be dating the same girl." I reread it 5 times, half convinced I was still dreaming. My brain did this weird flicker between who the hell is this guy? And oh my God, what if he's right? Finally, I typed back, "What's her name?" A few seconds later, the reply came, "Emily." I don't remember exactly what I felt in that moment. Shock? Rage? Relief that I wasn't losing my mind? Probably all 3, plus the sudden urge to throw my phone across the room. "Who are you?" I typed. "Mark, 31. We've been together for almost a year." "Who are you?" Almost a year. Emily and I had been together 9 months. That meant we'd overlapped for our entire relationship. We moved the conversation to a phone call because texting felt too slow for something like this. His voice was calm but tight, like he'd already been carrying this weight for weeks. He told me he met Emily through a mutual friend at a brewery. They hit it off instantly. She told him she worked in marketing, that she had trust issues from a bad breakup, that she wanted to take things slow but felt he was different. I was hearing my own story word for word, just with a different starting location. Then he said something that made my stomach turn. About 2 months into their relationship, Emily told him about a guy from her past, me, who had died in a car accident. She even cried telling him the story. Said I'd been her first real love, and it had been traumatic to lose me. Mark told me he'd comforted her through it, held her while she sobbed, and all I could think was, she was crying over me while texting me, "I miss you" in real life. We compared timelines. Mark had been with her on weekends. I thought she was visiting her parents. I'd been with her on nights. She told him she was working late. We even realized there were days she'd seen both of us. Lunch with him, dinner with me. It was like a spreadsheet of betrayal. "Why are you reaching out to me now?" I asked him. He sighed. "Because I didn't know for sure until last week. I saw her tagged in a friend's photo with you in the background. She told me you were her cousin." Her cousin. I wanted to laugh, but my throat felt too tight. We agreed to meet in person. Not to gang up on her or anything, at least not yet, but to confirm we weren't missing anything. We picked a neutral spot, a quiet coffee shop 2 towns over. When I walked in, I spotted him immediately. Tall, dark hair, wearing a plain hoodie and a look that said, "I really wish this wasn't my life right now." He slid a manila folder across the table. Inside were printouts of text messages, screenshots of Instagram stories, and even a photo of her at a restaurant. The same night she told me she was homesick. That's when Mark told me something else. "I think there's another guy." Apparently, a few months back, he'd seen a flirty comment on one of her photos from some dude named Kyle. When he asked her about it, she claimed Kyle was just a friend from college. But then he spotted a tagged picture of her in another city, with Kyle's arm around her waist. The timestamp? Right in the middle of a week she told me she was visiting her sick aunt. We sat there for hours, piecing together her schedule like detectives. It wasn't just cheating. It was strategic. Different guys for different occasions. Different lies for different weekends. She'd woven an entire web where each of us thought we were the center, but we were just placeholders. By the time we left, we had a plan. 1. Keep acting normal around her for now. 2. Share updates if either of us learned something new. 3. When we had enough proof, we'd confront her together. But Emily had her own plans. 2 nights later, around midnight, my phone rang. Her name lit up the screen. When I answered, she was crying. Not her fake cry voice, but a shaky, panicked sob. "We need to talk. I think someone's following me." My first thought was that she knew, that she'd figured out Mark and I had connected. But then she said something that froze me. "I think it's one of my exes. He's been sending me weird messages, saying he's going to ruin my life." I played along, asked questions. She claimed the guy was unstable and obsessed with her. Said she might need to go away for a while until things calmed down. When I hung up, I called Mark. He'd gotten the exact same phone call, word for word. That's when it hit us. She wasn't just lying to hide her relationships. She was running some entire storyline in parallel for each of us. And we still had no idea how deep it went. Part 4, The Truth and the Fallout. Narrator's POV, 29M. For the next week, Mark and I lived in a strange limbo. We were still talking to Emily, still playing our roles as if nothing had changed, all while feeding each other updates in secret. It was exhausting. Every smile felt fake. Every "I miss you" text from her felt like a dare to call her out. Meanwhile, she was doubling down on her "someone's stalking me" story. She'd call late at night, saying she thought she saw someone outside her apartment. She told Mark that maybe she should leave the state for a while. Neither of us believed a word of it, but we also didn't know who else she was telling the same story to. Finally, we decided enough waiting. We picked a date, a location, and a plan. A quiet little cafe, mid-afternoon when it wouldn't be too crowded. Mark texted her separately, saying he wanted to talk in person. I did the same. We didn't tell her we'd both be there. The day came. I got there first. My stomach felt like it was trying to tie itself in knots. Mark showed up 5 minutes later, giving me a nod that said, "Let's end this." Then the door opened, and there she was. Emily froze when she saw us sitting together. Her eyes flicked between us, confusion, then realization, then something else. Not fear, not shame, amusement. She walked over slowly, sat down across from us, and smiled. A slow, deliberate smile like she was the one in control. Emily, well, this is awkward. Me, yeah, it is. Mark, we know. About everything. She didn't flinch, didn't deny it. Instead, she leaned back and said, "Emily, you two think you know the truth, but you don't." She started talking like we were in some kind of therapy session. Said she never really lied to us. She just managed expectations differently for different people. Said she needed stability, and that meant not putting all her eggs in one basket. Mark and I just stared at her. She was describing emotional investment like it was a stock portfolio. Then she dropped the real bomb. "Emily, you weren't the only ones. There were others. I was in a sugar arrangement with 2 guys in another city. They helped me support my family." Her family? The same family she'd told me she was estranged from, the same one she'd used as an excuse to skip meeting my parents? She said they were in a bad situation and she had to take care of them. Sounded almost noble, except Mark had done his own digging. "Mark, you mean the family that doesn't exist?" Emily's smirk faltered. Mark pulled out his phone and showed her screenshots from public record searches. No one with her parents' names, no home address she claimed to have grown up at. Even the sick aunt story? Completely made up. The truth, as she finally admitted in bits and pieces, was much uglier. She'd been juggling relationships and sugar arrangements for years, not because she had to, not because she was supporting family, because she liked it, the attention, the gifts, the feeling of always having someone to text, somewhere to go, someone to fall back on. She called it keeping my options open. We called it what it was, manipulation. Mark asked the question I'd been holding in. "Mark, why tell me he was dead?" She looked me dead in the eye and said, "Emily, because it was easier than explaining why I didn't want you two to meet. And you're the type who'd never have believed the truth. The truth, like this was somehow better." The conversation went in circles after that. She didn't apologize. Not really. The closest she came was, "I didn't mean to hurt anyone. I just didn't think you'd find out." That was her moral line. Not don't hurt people, but don't get caught. Eventually, Mark stood up. He slid his coffee across the table, untouched, and said, "Mark, you need help, but you're not going to get it from either of us. I followed him out without looking back. For days afterward, I felt hollow, not angry, not heartbroken in the way movies show it, just emptied out, like someone had reached in and scooped out all the trust I'd had for anyone. I went back through old texts, old photos, old notes she'd left me, and every single one felt like a prop from a play I didn't know I was in. Mark and I stayed in touch for a little while. We'd send the occasional "hope you're doing better" message, but eventually even that faded. I unfollowed Emily on everything, blocked her number, deleted every photo. But the thing is, even when you delete the evidence, the memory of being lied to like that sticks around. So here's what I learned. Red flags don't always wave in your face. Sometimes they're just quiet little things you ignore because you're happy. But if your gut is telling you something's off, listen, because the truth might not just break your heart. It might make you realize you never even knew the person holding it.